Thing that doesn't say the 1 year. So
I'll send it to you.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like I'll send it to you.
We're good to
That'd
go,
be great.
team.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Clean Energy Alliance Board of Directors Special Meeting. And it's October 20th, 2022, 2 p.m. And Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Member Acosta,
Here.
Member Green,
Here.
Member Walton, Member Keim,
Here.
Member Insko,
Here.
Vice Chair Drucker,
Here.
and Chair Becker.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are to the flag salute and we'll see it on the screen in a minute. And if Board Member Keim would be so kind as to lead us in the salute.
Coming. All right, I'm just gonna go.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
America.
to the
And
republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. All right, board member comments or announcements? Anything? Padres, anything? Very good. Yes. All right, and we are to our presentation and thank you CAC Chair Warden for being here and I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Chair Becker. Hello to everyone. We had another good meeting of the Community Advisory Committee. We welcomed 2 new members, Dolores Jameson and Greg Colson. And as you may recall, the committee has set up some subcommittees so they can work in between the meetings. And we got our first reports back from some of the subcommittees, and I think they're making terrific progress in terms of the work they're doing. And I'll give you just some highlights. The local programs subcommittee prepared a summary spreadsheet comparing all the climate action plans from all of our jurisdictions. And it's really, really cool and interesting to be able to see how the various policies spread across all the various climate action plans. And they're going to be using that to achieve to support achieving the climate action plan goals through what we do here at Clean Energy Alliance. And unless Barbara corrects me, I think we're planning to share that spreadsheet with the board members just so you can have it for your information. The Community Advisory Committee as a whole had a discussion about there being lots of money out there at the federal, state, and other levels for clean energy kinds of programs, and had a strong feeling that for your board and staff to consider whether or not adding a grant writer to the program going forward would be a good idea. And I think the feeling was that if we had a grant writer who could track down these funds and write grants for us, that person could more than pay for themselves in what they could bring back. The electric vehicle subcommittee had a very interesting discussion about electrical vehicle charging and the press for that and the need for it and the difference between home charging and charging at businesses and how it impacts the grid. And Kevin Norris, who's a real authority on that from the university, had a lot to share and report on that. So I think we're going to expect a lot of good things from them on that. Finally, the committee as a whole discussed strategies for community outreach on greenhouse gas reduction strategies and how we can do that. And some of the ideas they discussed were including building electrification information on the CEA website, customer campaigns for enrollments in the green impact to really push and drive people to that 100% green product, and creating a new subcommittee dedicated to community outreach and education. And so I think we'll be hearing more from them, and I hope in the future you'll be getting reports on their outreach recommendations to you. And that's it.
Wow, that's a lot. Thank you. That's a lot of hard work. And I'm so appreciative of every member on there. They're all gung-ho and thank you.
Yes, it's exciting. And we're going to get some even more members coming.
Yes. All right, perfect. All right, we have a question. Board Member Green.
Thank you so much, Chair Becker. I just wanted to thank Dwight for his report, but also let him know, unfortunately, I missed last meeting and I was out of town due to a personal family emergency. But we did get our request out for some additional members of the CAC committee. And just by putting out some social media, we got a couple more applications. So I want to say we're up to about 5 or 6 applicants now. And Lord willing, we'll get some amazing people to work with you. So all this stuff that you're doing is super exciting, and getting the subcommittee for education and outreach is something I'm real excited about, because our community doesn't really know a lot about the CEA and where we're going energy wise. So Dwight, I appreciate you. I know I get to see you on the Riswell board, but seeing you here advocating as a resident on this committee is awesome. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Joe. We look forward to Oceanside representatives.
And Vista, I mean,
And
Oceanside's
Vista.
going to be okay, Dwight, but Vista's who you want, man. Ryan.
Do you guys happen to have a link on your website, your city website for CEA? Or that might be a good idea to put that on there, Board Member Green? You think
You know,
guys
I'm
can-
unaware. I know Caitlin Elliott from our city's probably on this call, so I'll have her make sure that it's added there. I know we had a link for the application period when it was open, so I assume there's something, but it'd be cool to just have an informative tab on there too. So.
Yeah, just more information or link directly to it or something though. So,
Yeah, great idea.
very
Thank you.
good. Okay, then do we have any public comment today?
We have no requests to speak.
All right, and can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes for September 22nd, 2022 and July 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
Is that correct, 2020, or should that be 2022? It's 2020, okay, very good. So moved, all right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Could we call for the vote?
Member Walton, oops, sorry. Member Acosta,
Yes.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Green,
Aye.
Member Kime,
Abstain, my alternate was there for that meeting.
Vice Chair Druker,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes,
Motion carries.
all
Thank you,
right.
Chair Becker. I just wanted to comment that I was not present for the September 22nd meeting. My alternate was there, but I spoke with her afterwards and feel comfortable. That's why I voted yes in the minutes.
Thank you for that. Okay, consent calendar. I just want to make a note on item number 1 under the recommendation. The date is incorrect. It should say that it's the treasurer's report for August 2022, but the report is correct and the information is correct. So with that, do we have any member of the public or board that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion of approval.
So moved.
Second,
Perfect. Call for the vote.
Member Kime,
yes.
Member Acosta,
Yes.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Green,
Aye.
Vice Chair Druker,
Yes.
and Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. We are on to new business. Item number 3, consider adoption of resolution number 2022-008, approving Clean Energy Alliance Addendum number 2 to the Community Choice Aggregation Implementation Plan, and Statement of Intent to address expansion to the cities of Oceanside and Vista. Turn that over to our Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Chair Becker, and I have a short presentation to show, but I do want to acknowledge that we have our consultants from Pacific Energy Advisors, John DeLassy and Kirby Dussel, and it's their good work that's represented in our implementation plan addendum that is related to expansions into the cities of Oceanside and Vista. So the recommendation before the board for consideration is approval of resolution number 2022-008, approving Clean Energy Alliance Addendum number 2 to the Community Choice Aggregation Implementation Plan and Statement of Intent to address expansion to the cities of Oceanside and Vista, and direct staff to file with the California Public Utilities Commission no later than December 31st, 2022. On July 28th, 2022, the Clean Energy Alliance Board adopted resolution number 2022-004, approving the cities of Oceanside and Vista joining Clean Energy Alliance. Service expansion to the cities is anticipated for April of 2024. The California Public Utilities Commission requires the preparation and filing of an implementation plan addressing the expansion to the cities. The plan must be filed with the PUC by December 31st for a planned 2024 service rollout. The implementation plan highlights key impacts and consequences associated with expanding service to Oceanside and Vista. Findings of the assessment reports that were prepared as part of the analysis of the cities joining determined that the expansion has a positive impact to Clean Energy Alliance. The implementation plan amendment reflects the findings of the assessment report. Overall, over the next 2 years, we will see an over 300% increase in our service accounts and energy served over the next 2 years. In addition to the 2024 expansion into the cities of Oceanside and Vista, we have an expansion in 2023 of Escondido and San Marcos, and we had already filed our addendum number 1 related to that expansion. We'll be going from current 60,000 accounts to about 153,000 in 2023, and then a total of about 266,000 in 2024. With regards to the amount of energy we will be serving, we currently serve approximately 600 gigawatt hours of energy. Once we expand into Escondido and San Marcos, we'll be at approximately 1491 gigawatt hours. And after Oceanside and Vista join, we will be at approximately 2,400 gigawatt hours. With regards to how the financial impacts, this chart represents the green bars are the revenues associated with the growth over the next 5 years, including this current fiscal year through fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, our net revenue reserves and surplus. So you can see then this year we have a slight deficit in the budget, which we anticipate will be covered with future revenues. But in all future years, then the forecasted revenues are sufficient to cover costs. The implementation plan meets all requirements as established by the California Public Utilities Commission. The PUC has 90 days upon which to review and certify the addendum. And that completes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you, Chair.
Very good. Thank you for that. Vice Chair Drucker?
Yeah, very excellent report. We'll look forward, obviously, to having Vista and Oceanside join. At one point, we were talking about whether or not April 2024 would be the appropriate time. I don't know if you have any more opinion on that or any more insight into that. What is April 2024 doable at this point?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Vice Chair Drucker. Our concerns with regards to April 2024 revolve around 2 key issues. One is the availability and the ability to procure what we anticipate to be our resource adequacy requirements. And the second, and maybe the more pressing issue, is with regards to the long-term renewable contracting commitments that would be connected to the expansion. At this point, we want to plan for an April 2024 service expansion because that's our goal. But until we get a little bit closer, we won't know for sure whether or not there's going to be any challenges with meeting those requirements. And so for now, we're going to plan for the April 2024. If we do find that we may not meet those requirements, then we would file an amendment that indicates a phased. And we do state in the report that depending on regulatory compliance requirements, that we may adjust our phasing. But we are shooting for an April 2024.
And when do you think we will make a tentative final decision?
I would say it would likely be in the mid 2023, mid to early fall of 2023, we would know, maybe a little bit sooner than that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Board Member Green?
Thank you, Chair Becker. My question was kind of along the same lines as kind of the new kid on the block and the new city coming along. I wanted to find out when my actual residents would be notified and the service would be expanded and their billing would actually start. I would assume if it's going to be, and we're anticipating April of 2024, based off of the time frame that I just heard, you give Mr. Drucker that by like summer of next year, you'll be able to solidify that. And then will we be notifying citizens of Vista and Oceanside saying, hey, in the next 6 months, this is the change? Or
Yeah, the actual noticing begins 60 days prior to the enrollment. So the noticing begins in February. Our outreach would likely occur 4 to 6 months before the launch. We found that if we go out too far in advance, the customers don't, they don't really understand what's going on, and it's so far in advance that they forget. So we try to do the outreach fairly close, but not too far away from launch. So it would be towards the late 2023, early 2024 would be the outreach. If we did have to phase, we would really try to look at how we could do some form of launch in April, even if it's a small subset of accounts, and then, bring on customers, and maybe another phase after that. But we'll be evaluating that over the next 6 to 8 months.
okay, and I heard you say the word enrollment, and my understanding was that the citizens actually have to opt out as opposed to enroll. So how does that work? Do they get like an opt-out agreement in February, or
Yeah, they get an opt-out notice, and so the notice explains that they would be automatically enrolled unless they opt out. And they receive a total of 4 notices.
okay?
And we
4
send them
notices between February and April they would receive, basically.
actually, they're once a month over 4 months, beginning in
So it even starts sooner. Okay.
February, March, April, February and March, at the end of April, and then May, June. So they have 60 days before enrollment, 60 days after enrollment to decide whether or not they want to stay in.
Okay, so there's a lot of time between now and then, and a lot of notification and education and outreach that Mr. Dwight Warden and the CAC are going to be doing, which is awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for answering that question for me. I just wholeheartedly, with the support of my city council and the entire city of Vista, wanted to move to approve this resolution. What is it? 2022-008 as presented by staff.
I will second.
All right, call for the vote. Or do we want to let Oceanside second that?
I'd be more than happy to second.
I'd be more than happy to let Oceanside second it.
Very good. All right, let's call for the vote.
Okay, Member Green,
Aye.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Kine,
Yes.
Member Acosta,
Yes.
Vice Chair Drucker,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, very good. Congratulations. Yay for all of us. All right, now we've got the interesting item number 4, the Chief Executive Officer Operational, Administrative, and Regulatory Affairs Update.
Thank you, Chair Becker. For this meeting, I didn't have anything to highlight from my report, so I'm going to turn it over to our regulatory attorney, Ty Tosdahl, for his regulatory report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boswell. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully you can all see that.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's been a busy few weeks at the California Public Utilities Commission. And so I have several things to report back about to you all. First and foremost, the Integrated Resource Plan proceeding has been extremely busy. And then I also want to talk to you about some developments in SDG&E's general rate case. An interesting application from PG&E to sell their generation assets that has been in the news that I thought you all should be aware of. And then a brief update on financial security requirements. It's been extremely busy in the IRP proceeding. As I mentioned, the IRP proceeding is a pretty broad proceeding that all the utilities and CCA programs are involved with. And the major purpose behind the proceeding is to evaluate utility and CCA portfolios to ensure that we are meeting our emissions targets over the long term. The CPUC recently put out a ruling in September. It has two major parts that I want to brief you all on. First part, the staff is proposing a pretty substantial overhaul to all the procurement programs. And the proposal has to do a lot to do with the CPUC's process. But there are also some concerns we have here about the CPUC's jurisdiction and their authority to approve CCA contracts in particular, and we have questions about how far this proposal goes in that regard. But the proposal would overhaul the RPS program, the RA program, the GHG requirements, and the IRP programs. It would eliminate one-time procurement orders, which have admittedly been pretty challenging for us. And we had a number of them come out of this IRP proceeding in 2019 and 2021. I will note that there is no legislation supporting this overhaul to the procurement structure, which is a little bit surprising. This is a pretty broad undertaking, and you'd expect to see some legislative support for something like this. So I'll just note that this is being undertaken on the commission's own initiative. Substantively, this proposal would involve some new long-term contracting requirements. It would be enforceable with penalties and backstop procurement. And those two areas are areas that we need to learn more about and look into, so that we aren't, there's not a penalty structure that is problematic or is too high. Backstop procurement can be an expensive proposition as well. And they're looking at three options: all resources, new resources, and hybrid. The comments were due November 7th, but just learned that they've been extended to December. So that was the first part of this ruling. The second part had to do with a much narrower issue. And there were two previous one-time procurement decisions, as I referenced in the previous slide, that were pretty challenging for all parties, CCA programs and utilities. D-19-11016 ordered 3,300 megawatts on the system statewide, and then D-2106-035 ordered actually 11,000 megawatts. So, much more substantial. And these were not completely out of the blue, but there was no precedent for these orders. And so it's been, both of the orders sought procurement to come online in a relatively short time frame. And so the commission is now looking at these compliance with these orders and realizing that there are many projects that are not going to be coming online within the time frame that they had hoped. So what they are proposing is to relax some of the rules around complying with these orders. They're specifically proposing to relax what they call the baseline rules. And they're also looking for other proposals to advance procurement. So all that's to say that the commission is, looking broadly across the state and finding that a lot of the projects that they were seeking to have completed within the next 5 years or so, there are some substantial number of them. They don't quantify how many are not going to be online, and there are many reasons for that. Delays in procurement. Certainly, we can look to supply chain issues and COVID for a couple of them. So, nevertheless, I think it's important to bring to your attention that that this is where the CPUC is right now, with trying to get new steel in the ground is the term that they use frequently. And so, I just want to let you know about that. So any questions about this IRP ruling or what's going on in this proceeding? Just want to pause there for a moment. Okay. I don't see any, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that later too. Moving on a little bit, as you know, we're involved in SDG&E's general rate case, which is where a lot of their transmission, distribution, and other costs are recovered and decided. And so we recently got a scoping memo that provides the schedule and the scope of the issues in that proceeding. We did have a win that I wanted to bring to your attention. We brought up the issue of what we refer to as cost functionalization, and that is the method by which the utility actually distinguishes the eligible costs for this proceeding. We wanted to raise that and ask SDG&E, questions about that. They pushed back, and the judge sided with us. So we'll be able to get into those questions about their cost, some of their higher level cost methodologies. So we are excited about that. Now I see a question from Mr. Green. I'll pause.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for
Sure.
acknowledging. I'm just wondering, once you get that information, is there actually like a report that we'll be able, I know you're going to issue to the board, but is there something we can issue to consumers as well that say, hey, this is how pricing structure is, this is why it is what it is, and this is how we're going to be structuring our pricing? Because I think the non-transparency is what's most frustrating for most of our residents.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Green, I understand that frustration. I'd be happy to work with you and with Barbara to figure out, if we can develop some content or announcements that you could receive. I'm so more than happy to do that. Absolutely.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. So the scoping memo also included some information, as I mentioned, about the schedule of this proceeding. And I just wanted to mention a few major ones here. The public participation hearings are scheduled for January. This is one of the few opportunities for the public to actually engage with the utility about their rate proposals. And these things are, pretty well attended. So we don't have any more information about that, but I will certainly bring that to your attention when we do. The intervener testimony, which is when we submit our testimony, is due in March. Opening briefs in July, and then we're looking at a decision the following year. So this isn't going to be decided for quite some time. So, pretty substantial proceeding with lots of different issues and different parties. But I did want to keep you apprised about what the schedule was. So,
How does this track with the state audit of SDG&E?
Yeah, the audit should be completed before this decision is issued. Chair Becker. And so I think we will be having, I expect that we will have the opportunity to discuss the audit findings within the proceeding.
Very good.
Yeah, which I think will be relevant and instructive for the commission. Absolutely. Moving along, I know we're not in PG&E territory here in San Diego, obviously, but I did want to let you know about this PG&E application. It definitely got a lot of attention in the news, certainly in the industry. It was big news as well. And that is that PG&E's filed an application with the Public Utilities Commission to create a subsidiary called Pacific Generation LLC. And they propose in this application to transfer all of their non-nuclear generation assets to the subsidiary. So all their wind, solar assets includes not only utility-owned generation, but also contracts. And then they want to sell up to 49.9% interest in the company. The subsidiary would be regulated as an investor-owned utility. Then PG&E says in this application that for CCA customers in their territory who pay the PCIA, it will remain the same amount, but it will be calculated for the two separate entities, PG&E and Pacific Generation LLC. So this is a big, potential structural change in PG&E. The rationale for this is very much related to PG&E's financial condition. This is potentially what we could end up with, a generation subsidiary that is controlled, barely controlled by the utility. So I think their goals are very much related to their financial condition. As I mentioned, they say on the face of this application, their goal is to meet near-term capital needs. I think everybody's aware PG&E is, went bankrupt, emerged from bankruptcy, and since that time has really struggled to boost its stock price or put itself on better financial footing. And so the reason for the primary reason for making this move is to meet their capital needs for financing. And so they also, another one of their goals here is to support deleveraging, meaning reduce their debt. They want to avoid any stock dilution and the effect on the Fire Victims Trust. PG&E didn't have adequate assets to satisfy the settlements or judgments in the fire litigation, and so their settlement with the fire victims involved transferring PG&E's stock. And so if they were to issue more stock, that stock would be diluted and the value in the Fire Victims Trust would be reduced. And then finally, they say they want to retain the benefits of generation assets for customers. I think there's some pretty substantial questions here for CCAs, not necessarily us, but for CCAs in the PG&E territory. Can IOUs monetize the PCIA by selling interests in it to third parties is a question that I have. And then also another question, California has very strong minority shareholder rights, and including the ability to dissolve in some instances. So what if, there was a minority shareholder that wanted to dissolve this company, what would be the effect is another question, important question. So anyway, this doesn't directly affect us again, but it's been on the news and it's a big change with, the largest utility in the state. So I wanted to make sure you're just aware of it. Any questions about that? Okay. Final item, I just wanted to keep you apprised of what's going on this is happening in the provider of last resort proceeding related to financial security requirements. We've discussed this several times. There is some pretty aggressive proposals out there to increase our financial security requirements. This endeavor really got off the ground after Western Community Energy failed. And since that time, there have been lots of ups and downs. Presently, where we are is that CalCCA is negotiating with IOUs regarding some methodological changes to their proposals. The major issues have to do with the procurement costs, how to account for PCIA values and minimum amounts. So in other words, minimum FSR amount payments. The formal next steps in the proceeding include a joint case management statement and evidentiary hearings, and we're looking at a proposed decision later this year or earlier next year. I don't have much confidence in these dates, and I think they'll probably this proceeding will probably be extended and several of these dates will probably be pushed back based on how things have gone now, or gone so far, I should say. So, Mr. Green.
Yes, sir. With all of the security requirements, updates and things, are they allowed to dictate what our minimum reserve requirements are and what the percentage of revenue we generate is?
No.
What's the whole financial security? What's the precedence for it? I know they don't want us to go under, but are they going to actually give us some structure as to what we can do?
Yeah, they are. These financial security requirements are put in place in the event that a CCA fails and has to return all its customers to a utility, Mr. Green. And so they are the minimum amounts that are set aren't set based on our revenue or anything. It's just right now, for example, there's just a flat amount, $187,000. It's just set as the flat minimum. And they're talking about increasing it potentially to $500,000. Some of the utilities have proposed larger amounts. There's not really a good basis for that, so we're questioning it.
And with the split in the ownership of the infrastructure, I mean, with your presentation before, does that affect any financial basis for us in the event we had to revert back or transfer customers? Because now if SDG&E does it, technically they own half the infrastructure and their LLC owns the other half. So who do we pay those fees to? So
no, this is independent. This is set independently of that. The FSR is set independently of that of those those cost approvals.
Okay, I appreciate it. Sorry to ask so many questions.
No, please.
Oh, it's good.
That's why I'm here.
Vice Chair Drucker has a question.
Please.
Yeah, so when you talk about case management and evidentiary hearings, you're talking about this an administrative judge with the CPUC, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And also in terms of following up with what Board Member Green talked about, this would be like an escrow account, correct? Rather than going directly to the utility.
An escrow account is one thing we've talked about, and we're definitely getting into Barbara's area of expertise if she wants to jump in here. But it's one of the things we've talked about. It's not currently the financial instrument here is a letter of credit.
Yep, okay, but it isn't a cash that we put somewhere. Right now, it isn't cash that we give to the utility, nor would it be cash that we would be giving to the utility up front. It would only be there in case something happens, correct?
I can jump in. So the way the rules are written with regards to the financial security requirement today, there are 3 ways to satisfy it. And the amount is 147,000.
I'm sorry, I said 187, sorry.
Yeah. And so the 3 options before us are to post cash with the utility, which none of the CCAs, I don't believe, have done, including Clean Energy Alliance. Issuing a letter of credit for the benefit of the utility, which is what we have done to satisfy our financial security requirement. And a third option is issuance of a surety bond. And so to date, all of the CCAs have utilized the letter of credit to satisfy their financial security requirement with their investor-owned utility.
There is some discussion in this proceeding about using different instruments. But no one is showing any sort of appetite for a cash only requirement or something of that nature.
And is it 147 for everyone, no matter what size you are?
No, it's the minimum for everybody.
Oh,
Correct. It's the minimum for everybody, but the financial security amount depends on a very complex calculation that's tied to procurement costs. And so it's, several CCAs have FSRs that are much higher than that.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So we would have to put more in as we procure more, and as Oceanside and Vista and Escondido and San Marcos come on, then we're going to have to put more, have a bigger letter of credit.
Well, we're going to have to see how the changes to the rules.
Yeah, well, I mean, given the rules currently.
The idea behind the FSR calculation is that you are you're supplying the procurement costs at a high level. You're providing security for the procurement costs that the utility would have to incur if you send all the customers back. That's supposed to be offset by revenues. So what the FSR amount turns on is the difference between it, forecast costs and revenues. Forecast procurement costs and revenues. So, it's not necessarily directly related to the size of the CCA program.
Yeah, Director Druger, this is Andy Stern. I'll just jump in for just a brief second. I was the CFO at Peninsula Clean Energy for 4 years. We had 300,000 customers and about $275 million in costs and revenues. And our FSR was 147,000 as well. So it is a very complicated formula that I'm not sure that we'll be able to cover in this particular situation, but ours wasn't any different. So.
Thank you.
And Mr. Trucker, Barbara knows a lot about this subject. So next time you get her on a call, pick her brain about it. She has a lot of experience with this.
Very good.
Very good.
All right.
That is the end of my presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions about these or other subjects. And I thank you all for your time in advance.
Yes, thank you. So always so informative. Nothing too bad this time, I guess.
Nothing too bad.
Board Member Acosta.
Yes, thank you, Chair Becker. I just wanted to bring up the news articles yesterday about the increases in rates from SDG&E. And I know that I received some outreach from the public affairs staff there because we had made these presentations talking about how they were lowering their rates, but we expected them to increase their rates early next year. So that was all over the news. I want to say yesterday, maybe it was the day before, but I know that I received outreach from them. And I just wanted to point that out. Maybe that can be included somehow in the messaging. Not to say that we predicted this, but just to, even though we did, but just to point out that that is happening, and that is something that will affect people's decision to stay with us.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Acosta. Yeah, SDG&E has made a concerted effort to get out to the public, far in advance and let them know about the upcoming rate increase. And we will put together some talking points for the board and get those out, if not tomorrow, early next week, so that you have something in case you do get questions from the public, which you very likely will. There has been a lot of interest from the media with regards to their the upcoming rate increases by SDG&E.
And maybe we could put those talking points even on our website.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Tosdahl?
Thank you, Chair Becker. I just wanted to briefly follow up on Board Member Acosta's comment. SDG&E did file an advice letter in April, I believe, or May, proposing a rate decrease, and we protested, informing them that this would lead to a substantial undercollection and a very substantial increase in the generation rates this coming year. That's exactly what's happened. And so I just want to reiterate that, yes, we called it.
And did you do it? I told you so to somebody then?
I'm encouraging you all to do I told you so. That's the purpose
Okay,
of
good.
it's going. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, very good. All right, so we'll receive and file that report and we'll move on to item number 5, and I'll turn that right over to our Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Chair Becker. I will go back to my slide deck. So item 5 before you for consideration is to consider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. And the recommendation, there's 2 options for recommendation. And I apologize, I'm struggling a little bit at the moment. If I could take just a minute to get a
Sure.
Okay.
And Barb, if it's okay, I can take over if you want me to.
Yeah.
The action before you, board, is whether or not to continue meeting remotely in light of state law that allows you to do that, provided that there's certain findings that you need to make. In your staff report, you were provided with a current case rate with all the member agencies. And if you should find that there's significant transmission that warrants you to continue meeting remotely, and that is available to you as well. And I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay. Yeah, so we did get a lot more in our staff report. It was helpful, the chart that does show in our area, there is a bit of orange, a bit of yellow, a bit of red. So does anybody have any comments on that? I remember Vice Chair Drucker, you had some concerns.
No, I leave it up to everybody else's. If we would like to start meeting in person starting in November, then let's go do it.
I should also note, Chair Becker, that the governor earlier this week announced that the state of emergency in the state of California is going to be eliminated effective February 28th of 2023.
Yeah, and also Del Mar is going to start in-person meetings starting in December. So November 22nd or something like that, or whatever the date is close enough.
Okay. Board Member Green.
Thank you so much, Chair Becker. Yeah, we're meeting again in person in the city of Vista with all of our committees. We actually had our first commission dinner with one of our volunteer commissions last night. It was real cool to kind of get back in front of people and make that connection. I'm meeting in person again at my RISMA meetings, and I think everybody on Sandag is having to drive down to San Diego again. So I'd love to meet in person. We could wait till the governor's state of emergency expires or do it sooner. Zoom is definitely convenient as it saves me, a 2-hour, turnaround on a drive going to San Diego, and I'm assuming about an hour in Oceanside where we would meet. But I'm excited to, get together just as soon as, the board feels fit. So as far as this is concerned, we'll meet in person whenever you're ready. Let's go. Excited.
Board Member Acosta.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask for clarification on the location where we would be meeting, because we had previously, it seems like settled on San Marcos, but now there's a chance that we'd be meeting in Oceanside. Could you please refresh my memory?
That is a separate item that's before you after this item.
Okay,
So at
great.
this point, the board action is that the meeting is currently located at City Hall in San Marcos.
Great, thank you. And I am in support of staying virtual. It's not lost on me that our CEO is coughing, and with the back to in-person events, I know it's not just COVID. There's a lot of things floating about. I just got my flu shot earlier this week too. So yeah, I know that things are still a little bit touch and go with some places. So I'm fine with staying virtual for now. Thank you.
Maybe through the holidays or something. Board Member Insco?
I appreciate everyone's comments. I guess very selfishly, I've had the great pleasure to meet some of you in person, Mr. Green, for instance, and certainly Mr. Warden on other committees, and sadly and Barbara, of course, in person as well. But sadly have not been able to meet the rest of you. And next month, November, will be my last meeting. As you probably know, I'm not running for re-election. So I certainly appreciate Board Member Acosta's comments. I also appreciate Vice Chair Drucker's, and I can go either way, and would look forward in any case, and just would like to say that it's been indeed a pleasure to learn. And I appreciate all of your comments, Mr. Green, and questions, because we are all still learning. And it's very exciting to see this organization really begin to grow over this last year. So either way, I would support, but I'm just sad that I might not get to meet everyone personally.
Well, we would hope that you would come watch our meetings every month.
After I take a little time off, perhaps.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Chair Becker.
All right, so where are we on this? I don't feel strongly one way or the other, so I don't need to make a motion. Is there anyone else that feels very strongly and would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to remain virtual. I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me to state it. One
Oh,
second.
very good. And should we take this monthly? Is that what we're doing, or?
Every
Okay.
30 days, right?
We have to do it every 30 days.
Okay, so for at least for the next 30 days, you're saying through the
Yes.
November, which will
I
be.
move,
get us-
that's right, staff's recommendation to continue meetings by teleconferencing.
I guess the question kind of is our next meeting within 30 days, or we're going to have a special meeting to
Yeah,
We got it within 30 days, November
next-
17th.
our next meeting is scheduled for November 17th.
Okay, great.
All right, did you guys have more comments or seconding the motion?
Second the motion.
I have a question real quick, actually.
Yes, please.
It sounded like we're just gonna, every 30 days, we have to talk about this. I want to say I support Board Member Acosta's suggestion kind of through the holidays. I know we're exposed to a lot more people, a lot more circles. Some of us go to a lot more events also during the holidays. So I would be in support kind of through the end of the holidays. Since we look at it 30 days at a time, just know I'm kind of thinking, hey, January, if you want to get back to meeting, that'd be great. And Board Member Insco, if you want to come party with me in Vista anytime, holla at your boy. The whole entire board's invited to Vista. We have fun in Vista. We'll make sure you do too. So anyway, that's where I stand on it. I appreciate you, Board Member Acosta, suggesting that kind of through the holidays. I think that's a wise move. So thank you so much.
We have to do it every 30 days. That's what that's the way it is mandated, that every 30 days we have to declare it as still an emergency.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second, so let's call for the vote.
Thank you. Member Green,
Hi.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Keim,
You're muted, Board Member Keim.
Yes.
thank you. Member Acosta,
Yes.
Vice Chair Drucker,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. We are on to item number 6, providing direction regarding amending resolution number 2022-002, setting time and place for the Clean Energy Alliance board meetings. All right, and I'm going to turn that to Ms. Boswell.
Thank you, Chair Becker. I will go back to my slideshow here and just jump ahead. So the recommendation before the board is to provide direction regarding amending resolution number 2022-002, setting the time and place for Clean Energy Alliance board meetings. By way of background, at the May 26, 2022 board meeting, the board adopted resolution 2022-002, setting the time and place for CEA's board meetings for the time period July 28th, 2022 through June 29th, 2023. At that time, the city of San Marcos was selected as the in-person location, and this was based on evaluating the other cities and the capabilities that San Marcos had with regards to live streaming and their live streaming platform being compatible with our current live streaming. At its last meeting, September 22nd, the board requested staff to research Oceanside as a possible alternative location for in-person meetings. Since that time, Oceanside staff was very helpful in confirming and discussing with the Oceanside executive team whether or not they would be willing to host CEA meetings. And they did indicate that they would be willing to host our meetings. They did review their calendar and identified that conflicts did exist for the November and December meetings, but that the 2023 dates were available. And it would be both the board meetings and the community advisory committee meetings that they would be hosting. And their calendar was free for both hosting both of those meetings. Oceanside currently streams via Zoom only. And so we would also be streaming our meetings via Zoom only, with the recordings being posted to YouTube after the meetings. We currently are streaming on both platforms. We stream, our interested parties can view our meetings via Zoom or through YouTube. And so this does not create an issue for us. We would just not be live streaming on YouTube, but it would still be live streamed via Zoom, which Oceanside has that capability. We would then, should the board determine they wanted to hold the in-person meetings at Oceanside, we would work with Oceanside to test the technology and just make sure everything was in order prior to us going in person at that location. Next steps would be, should the board provide that direction, we would return with an amended resolution reflecting the change to the in-person location. And again, that would be for both the board meetings and the community advisory committee meetings. And that does conclude my presentation, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have some comments? Vice Chair Drucker?
Yeah, so I would suggest that we hold off until you do the test. There's no rush to do this at this point because it looks like we're going to be meeting virtually over the next 2 months. But it would make sense that if you could do the test and come back, say, yes, it works. And then we can either flip a coin or have an arm wrestling match between Oceanside and San Marcos to see which one gets to win. Gets the pleasure of hosting us. I guess it's or the pain of hosting us. So
it would be nice to have when our board member from San Marcos is here as well. So maybe we can, put this on the next agenda, a couple agenda items. Is that okay with everybody else? I'm seeing
Yes.
thumbs up and nodding of heads. Okay, so we'll continue this item. All right, item number 7, to consider approving policy establishing term limits for the Clean Energy Alliance chair and vice chair.
Yes, and I'm going to do the presentation, but maybe ask our general counsel to lead the discussion.
He's standing at the ready.
Is she muted?
She's muted. Johanna, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm sorry about that. 2 meetings ago, the board asked for us to come back with a draft policy for board consideration that would limit not a member agency, but a board member to up to 2 years for a tenure both for chair and vice chair. We have provided for you the language and the draft policy for your consideration today. and I'm available for any questions you may have.
And I was remiss again in asking if we had any public comments on any of our items, but I'm predicting.
We do not have any request for public comment on this item nor any other item this evening.
Very good. Okay. So does anyone have any comments on this? I read the policy and I'm very in favor. Go ahead, Vice Chair Druker.
I'll move approval.
Okay, and I'll second that. Call for the vote.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Kime,
Yes.
Member Acosta,
Yes.
Member Green,
Aye.
Vice Chair Druker,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Item number 8, consider opening applications for Clean Energy Alliance Community Advisory Committee for terms ending December 31st, 2022. We have a presentation.
Thank you, Chair Becker. CEA's Community Advisory Committee policy establishes that each member agency has 2 appointees and that its appointees serve staggered 3-year terms. In the initial term, one member serves a 2-year term in order to establish that staggered term. The cities of Carlsbad, Del Mar, and Solana Beach have Community Advisory Committee members with terms that end December 31st, 2022. Options for the board for consideration are to open the application period for the 3 appointees with appointments to be made at the January 26, 2023 board meeting, or to extend the appointment for the community advisory committees through December 31st, 2025 for those committee members interested in continuing, and open the application period for those committee members that are not interested, or other action as the board determines. The Del Mar position was just recently appointed at the August 25th, 2022 meeting. So they've just attended their first board meeting with us. I'm sorry, CIC meeting. In conversations with the Solana Beach appointee, that appointee is interested in continuing, and it would be great to have that person's historical knowledge continue with us over the next 3 years. The Carlsbad appointee has actually missed a couple of the most recent meetings, and we would need to reach out to him to confirm whether or not he is interested or able to continue serving. And that does conclude my presentation.
Thank you for that. So I would be happy to have my Solana Beach appointee continue on. Just seems that the CAC is just getting started and just starting to do great things, and would be a shame to mix that up now. And also, we just had the opening in Solana Beach, and we didn't really get a lot of applications. So I think it's fair to say that continuing with the board member that we have would be a great idea. Vice Chair Druker? You're muted.
Also in Del Mar, the recent appointee, has only been on the board for 1 meeting, and it would make sense for her to continue for a full term at this point. I will check with her to make sure that she does want to continue serving. I'm pretty sure she does, but it would not make sense at this point to open it up unless she doesn't want to serve for Del Mar.
So that would be option number 2 on
Yeah.
those recommendations.
Yep.
Does everyone else feel okay about that? All right, I will second that motion if that was a motion.
Yes.
All right, call for the vote.
Member Acosta,
Yes.
Member Kime,
Yes.
Member Insco,
Yes.
Member Green,
Aye.
Vice Chair Druker,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. All right, board member requests for future agenda items. I think your hand up was from before, right, Vice Chair Druker? Or are you up again? Taking it down. Okay. All right, then I think our meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting will be virtual, and we'll be meeting November 17th, 2022 at 2 p.m.